What's going on, everybody? This is Jerome Moore, host and creator of Deep Dish Conversations. And firstly, I want to say thank you for all love and support, and thank you for exploring the perspectives of social change with me on this platform. I want to encourage you all to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube and on your favorite podcast listen platform. And make sure you give us a 5-star rating if you're loving the Deep Dish Conversations. I appreciate all of the support again. I hope you all enjoy this episode. This is Deep Dish Conversations, a series in which I, Jerome Moore, sits down with prominent figures in Nashville, Tennessee to talk about social issues over amazing deep dish pizza. Deep Dish Conversations models how to have conversations about deep issues around racism, housing, policing, poverty, and more. Plus, you will get an idea for where to get your next slice of pizza from. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy Deep Dish Conversations. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Deep Dish Conversations. I'm your host, Jerome Moore, and today we have, the Metro Nashville Police Department with us. Specifically, we have Chief of Diversity, Captain. It's a big C on there, proper now. Yeah. Captain Carlos Lara. You got to roll them R's.
That's right.
How you doing?
Man, I'm good, man. I appreciate y'all having me here, man. This is great. I'm excited to get some conversation going and see, some of the thoughts and just be here with you all. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. Everybody, especially now, I think because of the just tensions around policing, community. Anytime people see, community talking to police, people get on edge, like, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to say? I'm glad I've had the chance to speak to Captain. I'm going to call him Carlos.
Yeah, it's Carlos, man.
Carlos.
Carlos.
I'd have had a chance to, in many meetings, many Zoom meetings,
yes,
to talk to Carlos. And I don't think outside of Chief Drake, we would love to have Chief Drake here. Sure. But if 1A, 1B, but I know Carlos is gonna be transparent.
Absolutely,
is gonna be transparent and give it to us how it is. And so people that's watching this, feel free to reach out. If you don't like something that you hear, or you have other thoughts, perspectives,
or questions,
yeah, definitely reach out. But I got to put that disclaimer in there. Reach out, all right? Reach out, all right?
Absolutely.
But what I definitely want to touch on first is, many people may not know this, but Carlos, you're actually the first Latino, Latinx Chief Diversity Officer that MNPD has had.
Yes, so I am blessed. I'll tell you what, I thank God I'm blessed more than I deserve. But it's been unbelievable to be able to see where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. The first Hispanic, I was actually the first Hispanic lieutenant. I was the first Hispanic captain, and the commander, first Hispanic commander, and now the chief, Drake, when he was appointed chief, appointed me the Chief Diversity Officer of the department. So again, man, there's a lot smarter people than I am here in this department, but I'm blessed to be where I'm at, and it gives me a lot of sense of pride to be able to say that I'm be able to open doors for others that are in the same place that I was. And
especially being man of color, and always being that first, how does that how do you internalize that, especially in the police department, knowing how specifically people of color, have a, kind of, what's the word we're looking for? We got a peculiar relationship with police historically,
sure,
as well. And so how do you, far as internalize that, being the first and being able to kind of, have that representation and be able to correlate and relate and maybe fill some of those gaps that may be between MNPD and Latinx community, black communities, and things like that?
Man, I'll tell you, it's an incredible privilege and it's a blessing. It's kind of a double-edged sword because it's hard because you're the first, so you don't really know. You're kind of setting the tone for how things are going to move forward, but at the same time, you're able to set the tone for how things move forward. And being able to represent not only the Hispanic community but minority community in general is great because, again, we've had some minorities move up in the past, but I think even with Chief Drake now, he's really made it a point to saying, hey, we need to make sure that our department reflects the community. And so he's starting to really look at the incredible talented people of all races, white, black, Hispanic, Asian. I mean, we've got an incredible group of men and women on our department. But to be able to start kind of that rise of the minorities in the department is awesome. And I think the city's going to really see the fruits of that. And it's going to be a blessing to the city because you're going to have, again, people that are from these neighborhoods that are going to be helping police these neighborhoods and helping, create policies for the neighborhood. So it's, or for the way that we police. So It's internalizing it, man. It's just sometimes I think about it and I said to them like, man, I don't know how I got here, but the
Right.
good Lord blessed me more than I deserve, and it's a
Right.
blessing, and just got to do my very best to try to honor Him and serve the people as best as we can, you know.
And so, can you break down for us what's the day in the life of the Chief Diversity Officer?
So it's so the chief diversity officers in general in like the private sector have always been more of a internal. They deal with internal personnel issues within their organizations. My job is a little bit different, and chief diversity officer is the title that I've been given. But where I'm really doing a lot more of is I'm reaching out to diverse communities.
Okay.
And so a lot of meetings. I have a lot of interactions with people such as like the Kurdish community, the Asian community, the Hispanic community. I'm constantly trying to figure out the Somali community, Muslim,
Vietnamese,
yes. And so really reaching out to a lot of these communities that historically haven't had a really good relationship with this department or have had no relationship with the police department, trying to reach out and let them know, hey, we see you, we care about you, we want to serve you.
Right.
And so a lot of the things that I do is a lot of coordinating, a lot of meetings with a lot of the leaders in these communities going, hey, what are the issues you're having? What can we do to help? I've said in the past, you know, a lot of times we used to go as police officers, go into neighborhoods and go, this is your problem, and I'm going to tell you how I'm going to fix it.
Right.
We don't do that no more. And Chief Drake has been very, very adamant going, we're not going to police the way we used to. We're going to look and see what the community wants. And so we're going in and going, hey, I see the problem. I've got an idea, but I want to know what your idea is so that we can figure out the best way of attacking this problem and fixing it. So it's a lot of conversation. It's a lot of education and a lot of really just letting people know that we care, you know what I mean? And engage with them, you know, be part of their events. Invite them to our events and just really try to start building that partnership relationship with these communities. So that's a lot of what I do. As well as this position, also the liaison to community oversight board. So that's that's the first liaison we've ever had. So that's another dynamic of you know the position that I'm in.
Now, how is that with the COB? Just the abbreviated community oversight board, the COB. Historically, that relationship, far as with the COB and MNPD, wasn't the best. You know, that was under Chief Anderson. Many people believe that still, it's still a lot of underlining Chief Anderson. What's the word? Best word. Chief Anderson kind of players involved in what's happening now. Could you speak on that a little bit, and also speak on like the relationship now with the COB?
Sure, and I think under past administrations, things were done differently. The chiefs had their own way of dealing with situations. The chief had his own way of interacting with the community oversight board director and board members. I think that Chief Drake was in that same administration, but I think Chief Drake has shown that he's not going to do the things that were done before. He's changing the way things are being done, and I think that's the biggest difference. Is just because he was in the same administration doesn't mean that he was not willing to make the changes that were necessary.
Right.
The old chief had his way of doing things, and he was the last say. Chief Drake now is the one that's making the rules, and he's got his rules that he wants to put in place, and that is we're going to play nice, and we're going to work together, and we're not going to be a stumbling a roadblock to the COB and the work that they're trying to do. Perfect example is appointing a community oversight board liaison, which is what he has me asked me do. I think that I can't speak for the COB themselves, so you could talk to Director Fitcher, Director Clossy, or the board members and see what they think.
Right.
But I think that compared to what the relationship was in the past, I think we've made incredible strides.
Right.
We seem to be working a lot better together. I think that we're not going to agree on everything.
Right.
But we're not supposed to agree on everything. I think that there's going to be always disagreements on the way things are done, but that's not the biggest issue. The biggest issues are we going to respect each other's positions and what we bring to the table and how we're serving the communities, and I think we are. I was at the Community Oversight Board meeting yesterday night, and again, as a liaison, I'm there to assist and facilitate whatever the COB needs. So if the director says I need this or that, instead of in the past trying to figure out what do I do, how do I get this, she comes to me, and Director Fitcher would come to me, or Assistant Director Clossy, and they say I need this, and I get it for them. And really facilitate the things that in the past were very difficult for them to do. And I think Chief Drake was very clear. We're going to do what we need to do, and we're not going to put any roadblocks into letting them do their job. Do what we need to do to help them, and we do our job, let them do their job. We're not gonna stand in the way of it. So.
Right. And I think it's important for a community to get involved whenever they can. And I think the Community Oversight Board is having in-person meetings again now. Over 100,000 people voted to have the COB here in Nashville. And so I think it's really good that you touched on it, but I also want the listeners to know, like, it's for the Nashville community to get involved, speak your piece, say what you have to say, even though you have board members that represent the COB and represent the Nashville residents. It's an open platform for people to hear what MNPD has to say, hear what's going on with the Community Oversight Board, and it's something that I really, I personally try to advocate for as far as people getting involved and listening and tapping in to the players that are involved in the COB and see what's going on and see how they can potentially participate in reaching out to those that are involved.
I think one thing that people, I think sometimes there's a misunderstanding is that the COB and the MNPD have two different desires, or they have two different goals, and our goals are really the same when it comes to, we don't want bad officers in our department.
Right.
The people who hate bad officers more than everybody else is good officers.
Right.
Because the bad officers give such a bad name to the good officers. Now the good officers have to deal with all the backlash from things that they had nothing to do with. And so we don't want them here. We don't want them. If you're not going to serve the people, if you're not going to do what's right, then go somewhere else. And I think that we both have that goal. It's just that we're looking at it from two different eyes.
And I think, this is, I guess, the educational piece, because I think everybody would agree all police officers are not bad police officers, right?
Agreed.
I think it's more the system, historically, especially when it comes to people of color, of what the larger picture has been. And, it's statistics to prove these things, right? I think, like, the prison population now is, like, far as when it comes to just black men alone, is over 50%. If we include Latinx and black, it definitely make up majority of the prison population, and we the minority of the U.S. population, United States population. And it's just like, how we meet these disparities? And it seems like, okay, we clearly seem like we're being over policed, especially with the statistic that came out 37208.
Yeah.
As far as having the largest incarceration rate, in the country. And I don't know if that has changed, because I know that report came out like a year and a half, 2 years ago.
But it may have changed. I don't know how much it does, but it's still.
It's still, but like being number one in general, like, you're not going to drop down that far in the year. So, how, and I think when it comes to like policies, once a bad officer has been identified, it seems like a lot of people have a problem with the protocols or the policies that are in place to prevent them from ever policing again, because they can move to another city, another state, and it seems like it's a lack of transparency or a clearinghouse on, like, oh, that person was being discriminatory towards a group of people. That's why he was fired. That's why she was fired. Why are they being able to get another job? Yeah,
and so those are things that there's policies, there are laws, things that need to be followed. I know for us, and there's the Post is the Post is the organization that certifies us.
Right.
And so the Tennessee Post, so we get our post certifications through Tennessee. And so if somebody gets fired for some reason, what I understand is that we have to let Post know this officer got fired, and then they can go ahead and see if they revoke their certification. Right. So they'd have to go somewhere else and they go, hey, are you post certified? Well, no, I'm not post certified because it got pulled by the certification organization. Or body, and then they go, well, why did you get it pulled? Well, I got it pulled because of XYZ. Right. A lot of times, some of the other departments don't do that background that they need to. They don't do the thorough check that needs to be done, and there's got to be a better way of doing it, because again, there's a lot of disconnects within the different organizations, and I think the more you connect and the more you're able to work together to get this information so everybody's on the same page, I think it's easier, and I think that legislation is coming through that is kind of making it a little bit easier to identify problem officers or problem, police personnel that leave and try to get a job somewhere else. Right. But sometimes it's that lack of communication between, organizations and bodies and agencies that is the problem, or people not doing their thorough backgrounds on these people and going, hey, if you're coming to work in my police department, I need to know, why did you leave, that department? Why did you leave Metro and now you're going to XYZ? Right. Well, we need to go ahead and really do a good background check and go, let's go talk to the department. Let's go figure out your personnel file. Let's go ahead and talk to Post and get that information before a decision is made to hire somebody.
And see, like, information like that, normal people like myself, it's not going to be really too familiar with that process. And having you here to break that down, I think is going to really help people maybe look more into it and maybe, like, like, oh, it's the post that needs to, be getting on their job more and regulating some of these things, specifically here in Tennessee anyway.
Yeah, and so the post actually, if once post knows, they'll do what they need to do. I think everybody needs to make sure that post knows, and then people need to go back again. These agencies that are hiring the officers need to make sure that they're doing those thorough background checks and making sure that they are communicating with all those that have a say in why this person is not a police officer anymore.
Right.
And I think there's so many moving parts that sometimes the moving parts that this one may be moving and this one ain't going nowhere. And so we've got to work together better to make sure that we don't allow problem officers to jump from one department to another. Because you will see that happen quite a bit, and they'll move from here to another state.
Right.
Maybe that state has different rules on how to do things, and so again, we've got to all make sure that we do our due diligence when we're hiring officers. So
let's talk about budget a little bit.
Okay.
Police budget money, and as like a community organizer, we're always thinking like, where can we get funds from to put into other areas that's needed for community. And here in Nashville, it's a huge conversation when it comes to how much money is MNPD getting? Where is this money going to? Why do they need so much? Why do we need more SROs? Why do we need more police officers? Why do we need a helicopter? Why do we need these things?
Sure.
And so I'm gonna throw out just some trigger words for you. When you hear reimagine, police funding or defund the police, what does that mean to you, and what are your thoughts about that?
I think that I completely agree with reimagining how policing is done. I think policing done 20, 30 years ago is very different than what needs to be done today. I think 50 years ago, 60 years ago, the way things were done is very different than they are being done today, and they should be done differently. Mm-hmm. When I think of defunding, I think that I don't really think that people understand where our funds go. Right. And so the majority of our funds go to police personnel, like to salaries. I think it's like 75% goes to that. And when you think about the city and how it's grown, we've got, I think, close to 700,000 people here. Right. And we're pretty much policing with the same amount that we policed, I think, 20 years ago, which was like 1,300 officers. We've got about that much right now. And a city our size should have probably close to 18 to 2,000 officers. Just because of the area, we've got 530 plus square miles. Mm. All of the events that we have here takes manpower. A lot of times people look at it and go, well, we're doing a lot of policing, but we're going out there stopping cars, this and that. But I don't know if they realize all of the other things that we have to do, such as all of the traffic issues that we have. You're talking about downtown, these big events, 4th of July, New Year's, these huge, the draft, NFL draft that came. That is a huge amount of personnel that is necessary, needed to keep the city safe when you've got, I think this past event that we had 250,000, almost 300,000 people that showed up. Right. The draft had 600,000, I believe it was, over that time frame. Right. We've got to make sure that people are safe. Right. And it takes manpower. I'm all about making sure that other initiatives and other programs have the funding, but I don't think that taking them away from one that's already underfunded, to be honest with you, compared to what we need. Right. And give it to somebody else is gonna help. I think that's
gonna blow people's minds. Like, the police is underfunded.
Let me tell you, if you looked at all the things that we need that would make it safer, training, all this. I mean, again, you're talking about 75% is just the personnel. Just you're talking about salaries, benefits, things like health insurance, things like that. And then you're talking about all of the different technologies come out, all the different training that comes out. That's all costs money.
Back, we was talking about budget.
Yes. So going back to the budget again. I'll just say that
because you're gonna have people that see this and it's gonna say, gonna say, hey, police is getting this. Where it can go? It can be going more to housing. It can be going more to community organizations. It's sure. It's other services. For example, and this is one that me and you talked about in Zoom meetings when it comes to funding for SROs, and why not have school counselors. School professional counselors instead of police officers. We had Safer Schools on here talked about that a little bit, and I told them like, well, Carlos will be on here to talk probably a little more deeper, but I said a lot of confusion. It seems like what I heard specifically with SROs and MNPD is principals, school leadership have a different understanding on what they're there to do And MMPD has another different understanding on what they're there to do. And so you have school leadership asking SROs to do things that they're not there to really do.
Absolutely.
But can get involved in, and then it draws up a different perspective and narrative of what's actually happening in the SRO role specifically.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to budget, people are like, police, let's put more people back in policing on the street where, if it's already undermanned, let's put those individuals with fighting crime and doing those things and get, school resource officers, not school resource officers, not SRO, but get school counselors in there.
Okay.
Instead. And so far as, but that's just one conversation I know when you're talking about budget and as far as reimagining or defunding specifically, well, take those funds that you use with SROs and use them for school counselors.
Well, I think one of the things that people may not understand is that we are not actually getting extra money for SROs. This is just part of our budget, and the chief just says, I'm going to take these officers, I'm going to put them in schools because I think that that's an important place for them to be. So it's not that we're getting extra money specifically, hey, this is funding that you're getting for SROs. Right. We're not getting specific funding. The chief can take all these SROs out of the schools if he wanted to and put them somewhere else, but he feels that he feels it's very important to have somebody there not only to protect kids because of different things that have happened in the past, and we could probably look at history and see all the different very terrible incidents that have occurred in different schools, and really being able to have somebody there to help address those issues as soon as possible.
Right.
And that's a conversation that's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
But
Right.
I think that when you're looking at SROs, everybody has their own thoughts. But the SROs, again, like you said, the schools historically for some reason it started off right, but then initially they started to ask SROs to do things that was not that's not what we're there for. That's not their role. Enforcing house rules. Hell, this child right here, he doesn't want to go, he doesn't want to listen, no, that's not our job. Right. Our job is to protect. If there's a criminal issue where a specific crime has been committed, then we have to address certain things. Right. But we're not there to be like the teacher bodyguards, or the one that's out there, like if something bad happens, you call the police officer, they'll take care of it. No, that's not our job. Really we want to help kids to understand who we are and to feel comfortable around police. So when they get outside and they see them on the street, they don't have that fear. Right. So there's different roles that the officers use as SROs, mentoring some of these kids. There's certain things that they will tell the SROs that they won't tell their teachers. Right. And certain issues that are occurring that they may not feel comfortable telling a teacher, but they will say, hey, SRO so-and-so, I've got an issue, can you help me? Our focus on SROs in schools is to build a relationship with the kids. To protect, first of all, but to build those relationships with the kids so that when they leave, they don't have that fear of officers. Now, again, when the teacher, if somebody says, hey, this child is acting up, you need to call the SRO, well, that's not our place. That's not what we're there for. And I think that's the issue, is that they've been utilized in a way that they shouldn't be utilized.
What would you say to the parent or person that say, hey, I don't think the school is the best place for my child to be building a relationship with police officers?
Mm-hmm. My question would be, where is the best place to build a relationship with police officers? And I'm not saying that schools is the perfect place, right. But I think that, do you want them to, how are they going to build a relationship outside of the school? Are they going to build a relationship when if they get stopped, or if they have interactions on the street? That's not really a relationship, maybe be an interaction. Right. That's a great question. I think that, again, we're using the form that we have available to try to make a difference. Right. And is it always going to be perfect? No, but I think that we're using what we can, and I think that being able to be in schools is kind of a double pronged thing. We're there to protect if something happens and be a deterrent. So people can go, hey, there's an SRO there. You may not want to go in there and do anything, but also, hey, there's kids here that we can maybe impact and go, hey, we're going to do these, interact with them and have that positive interaction with them, so when they leave and they go home, they can say, Mom, Dad, not all police officers are bad. Right. Hey, I met so-and-so and he was cool and he treated me right and this and that. And I'm not afraid of the police when I go out and see them on the street. What's going on, everybody? This is your host and creator of Deep Dish Conversations, Jerome Moore. And I know you're enjoying this episode that you're watching currently. Make sure you hit that notification button and hit subscribe so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for all love and support. And continue watching the episode. I'll holler. Yeah. And I think, and I know I said this earlier,
it's no way that you can say all police officers, because we're talking about individuals are
Sure.
bad, right? I think it's a system, and then also is this what is the problem? What is it's like risk assessment, right?
Yeah.
Even me now, I say, I know Captain Lara, and I know all police officers are not bad, but I know historically, me getting pulled over is gonna might be a little bit different, and I have to have different mannerisms. I shouldn't have to, but those are just the reality of what we've seen that I can go off of historically, that I can make it back on to my family.
Sure.
Right, and it is what it is in this country. It is what it is, and so I think those interactions, those historical interactions to present day, is I think what is causing having a lot of cause to pause when it comes to building relationships in general, whether it's in school, whether it's community, because of the damage, the trauma that a lot of us has faced, in the past. And it's like, well, every time I might want to trust, or go in, something happens to a person that looks like me or from the same area that I'm from, and it's just like, I can't do it. And so it's really interesting, and I'm glad I'm having this conversation with you, because it could happen to you. People may not know that you're
Absolutely.
the chief diversity officer, and you could be a victim of that same type of discrimination.
Absolutely. And again, there is no doubt in my mind whatsoever that policing was done in a different way, and it really hurt a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there now that were around the 60s, 70s, when policing was just like another world.
Right.
And they are still traumatized by a lot of those things, and it still affects them. And those experiences have now been passed down to kids, grandkids, great-grandkids. And so what what grandma and grandpa remember is what they're telling their kids now, and those kids are going, well, if that's what's happening, then I'm automatically, my mind is that is what it's like now. We are moving into a different type of policing, and I think it's pretty clear across the country when you're seeing how people are changing the way, and departments are changing the way they're policing. Here in Nashville, the chief has been very clear. We got rid of a bunch of our proactive units. We used to have flex units. They used to go out there. They're the ones that unmarked cars. They used to stop everybody. Those are gone. We used to have crime suppression units, which used to do the plainclothes drug narcotics officers on the streets that were out there, doing drug busts and all types of drug investigations, prostitution investigations. They're gone, and now we're replacing them with community engagement teams, teams that are not out there trying to police the way that people have always seen policing. They're out there saying, I want to start building a relationship. We want to start engaging the community, connecting with them, and letting them really know that we're here not to hurt you. We want you to feel comfortable with us. We want you to feel protected when we're around. We've got a long way to go. Don't get me wrong, but I think we're taking steps to get there. And it's not going to be a one overnight fix. It's not going to be a 1 year fix. It's not going to be a 2 year fix. It's going to be a long-term fix that we have to continue to build that trust. And I think that is why we have community engagement teams. The office that I supervise, the Office of Community Outreach and Partnerships, which the chief, it's under the chief's office, and that is to reach out to those immigrant communities, a lot of in underserved communities that historically have been afraid of the police, have never had good interactions, don't understand the way policing is done, and so we're trying to change that.
Right.
Are we going to do it perfectly? No. There's going to be just like anything else. There's going to be things that we're going to do wrong that we're going to have to change.
Right.
But we're trying, and we're looking at different ways to do it better, and that's why we need the input of the communities we serve, and that's why we're getting that change of tide and the way we police differently here. Because I can tell you right now, we police very differently today than we did even a year ago.
Well, I want to get back on the community engagement piece. And I know you mentioned the several communities, of course, like the Latinx community, Black community, but it's three communities that I think that we don't hear a lot about. At least, unless you maybe like the Vietnamese communities, the Kurdish communities, the Asian community.
Sure.
And could you speak on what is because a lot of times the Latinx is a Black community, white community, just on the news and stuff that you hear a lot about. And I'm curious.
Absolutely.
Like and just it might be those from those communities that's watching too. And I want to make sure like I'm intentional about touching and seeing what is happening in those communities from your experience and from your engagement with them.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you what. So, in our office, the Office of Community Outreach, we actually have liaisons to those specific communities.
Okay.
We have to the Kurdish community. We have Nopel Ahmed. She's an officer who grew up in the Kurdish community here in Nashville. She knows everybody. She's exactly what we want in a person that's going to be a liaison to a community because she knows the community. She's part of it. We also have Officer Jeff Ha, who's Vietnamese, and he's actually our liaison to the Asian community, specifically the Vietnamese and all the others. Now, I'll speak more towards the Kurdish because I have a lot more understanding of the Kurdish culture, and I don't know if everybody knows, but Nashville has the largest Kurdish population in the country. Wow. There's 20,000 plus Kurdish residents here. One of the most amazing communities you'll ever meet, and I think they're very similar. I always interact with them, and they're very similar to the Hispanic community. They're very tight knit. Mm-hmm. They're very close, very caring people, incredible. And we have started to really build a lot of great relationships within the community. But again, in the past, different issues have come up where it's kind of broken the trust that we had with them. And our job now is to really focus on rebuilding that through not only the liaison that we have, but also myself and some other on my team, as well as the chiefs. We meet with some of the community leaders in the Kurdish community once a month. And what we're doing is we're trying to get their help. We want to know what is it that we're doing wrong, or what can we do better, or what are we doing right that we need to continue doing. And that is helping us to start building that relationship. Is it perfect? No. Do we have a long way to go? Absolutely. But we are, again, making strides, and we're building it. The Vietnamese community, we have Officer Jeff Ha, and he has now really been connecting with a lot of the Vietnamese temples and the Asian community as a whole. Right. The thing with the Asian community is that there's so many different smaller cultures and countries that are represented that as a Vietnamese person, he may not be able to communicate well with maybe somebody from China or Japan or other countries because they speak a different language. So that's a little bit more of a little harder to navigate, but I think just knowing that we're there and we're attempting and trying to build that relationship is something that they really respect and I think really enjoy having. We're doing the best we can, identifying leaders in those communities till we can start talking to them and go, hey, you're the voice for these communities. Let's go ahead and figure out what we need to do to help. And I think that we've started to make some changes on the way we do things and giving them points of contact so that if something happens, they can talk to us. The Somali community, we had the Somali community of Middle Tennessee is an organization out here. And I've talked to Mr. Hassan Ahmed out there, or Ahmed Hassan, and he is the leader out there, and he is an incredible man, and he's contacted me for different things which we never had communication with the Somali community. It's one of those that we just didn't have any communication unless there was a call for service. Now we're starting to build that trust and relationship. The Muslim community, we deal with, we've talked to several in the Muslim community during Ramadan and trying to figure out from the mosque, what do you need? Trying to build those relationships, trying to connect. Miss Sabina from Mahuyadin. She's a phenomenal person. I don't want to mess up her name.
But I know
over at AMAC, and I've talked to her, and she's very passionate about the Muslim community and taking care of them. And she's reached out on occasions to figure out, hey, this is an issue we're having. Can you address this? And we're doing what we can to now work with them and address these issues. I'm going to say it over and over again. We have a long way to go. We are by no means saying that we're where we need to be because we've got a long way, but I think that we are taking all the right steps, and we are really making great strides and moving forward to where we need to be. So,
I'm taking another bite of this pizza.
You got it. Yeah. It's the good stuff right there. But again, it's exciting to be able to be a part of this and this office which we have. Those watching know we do have in our office a Hispanic liaison, El Protector program. So Officer Louis Lopez, who really is our liaison to the Hispanic community. We have Officer Nakia Reed, who's our liaison to the LGBTQ community. And she does a phenomenal job connecting with everybody there and trying to make sure that they're safe. We have, again, Nopel Ahmed, who is the liaison to the Kurdish community, Jeff Ha, who's the liaison to the Asian community. And then we have other officers we have one that's a liaison, Chuck Embry, to the displaced neighbors community. We have the PAL program, which we're bringing back, the Police Activities League. So we've got an officer that's over that. We've got an officer over assisting with schools, Officer Mark Bennett. He was actually one of the original SROs. We call him the OG. He's been around a long time, and he's seen a lot of things. I'm trying to think of who else am I missing here. We've got we've got Angela Booker, Officer Angela Booker. She's works with disabled kids. We've got Officer Payne, DeAndre Payne, who works with our elderly community, which is something that we've never done.
Okay.
And so we've got, again, I hope I didn't miss anybody, but we've got officers that are really spreading out our wings and trying to go, who needs help? Who can we connect with that we've never done before? Right. And we're trying to reach out to them. So
I'm gonna see how much time we got.
Yeah,
okay, we got 15 minutes left.
Cool.
And so I wanna get into some look also deeper on this conversation. You know, a lot of people are not familiar with protocol and training when it comes to stops and things like that. When it comes to policing, and you know, when somebody dies, you know, people, you know, like nobody wants to see, you know, anybody killed. Absolutely. But from the lens of a resident, it's like it doesn't seem like that officer should have pulled out his or her gun. Why didn't they use a taser and things like that? From an MNPD's perspective, you know, what are you all's thoughts on that when it comes to using a firearm compared to a taser, and what should residents know, I guess, about the training and policy procedures when it comes to that? Because, you know, a lot of times we just like, you know, he or she shouldn't have been shot, or they shouldn't have been killed for that, especially when it's a mental illness involved. And I know, you know, there's the co-response model that's being in the works now to better handle those situations with a mental health professional, with a police officer, and things like that. So I know strides are being made for sure. You know, especially when something doesn't exist and something of it exists, like that's a stride. And so, can you speak on that a little bit and just
so
educationally and just, you know, just I know it's a especially for those who have lost people to police, you know, police violence or police killings. You know, it's a tough subject. But again, you know, I want the listeners and watchers to understand better, I guess, if they can, on why some things happen this way or don't. And I guess, do you see things that could be changed, I guess, about procedures?
There's always things we can do better. Always. You know, you're never going to be perfect department. There's always going to be something that's, as times evolve, as policing evolves, there's always going to be new things that we can do better. No doubt. Some of the things that the public may not know is the training. So we get about 26 weeks, I think now, is of training at the training academy. So an officer, a trainee goes in, he gets the background checks, gets accepted to the police department. They go for about 26 weeks now, I believe it is. It's gone up, more training now than we did in the past, to get trained, to learn all of the rules, the laws, those things, that the foundation that they need to be a police officer. They do, I think, 2 weeks of firearms. They do taser training and use of force. I mean, all these different things. When they get out of the department, then they go do 6 months of field training, which is they go with a field training officer where they learn how to apply the things they've learned at the academy into real life situations. I think that there's a lot of, first of all, I want to say that I personally, and I don't think I've ever met an officer that's ever wanted to pull the trigger. I know that because of what we see on the news, people think, man, the officers wake up in the morning, they're ready to, you know, pop a round off. I can tell you that that's not realistic. And it may seem it because all we see in the media is the really bad situations. And there are bad officers. And like I said, 100% there are bad officers out there. And we don't want them around. But the majority of the officers are good people. And they care about the communities, and they don't want to do that. The issue that you have sometimes is the situation. It's all situational, you know. I don't know what's going through that officer's mind. I don't know what he's seeing. I don't know what, you know, situations can go from 0 to 60 like that. And so when you look at the training, we look at, is the officer following the training that he's been given, and is he following the law? Every time that a life is taken, it's a terrible thing, whether it's a good person or a bad person. You know, it's a terrible thing. It's a life that's taken, because it doesn't just affect them. It affects their families. It affects everybody else. Sometimes it's you know, hindsight is 20/20. It's hard to really see. You know, you may not agree with why somebody did something, but there's a lot of things, aspects of it that you have to look at. You got to look at the human aspect of it. Sometimes we look at training and go, you know, they should have known. Hey, I've heard this a lot. Well, why didn't they shoot the gun out of their hand, or why didn't they shoot them in the leg? I don't think that people realize that is not a realistic thing that we can do. It is. I don't know if anybody that shoots guns. Now, there'll be some really good shooters out there, but there is so many things that affect being able to shoot somebody in the leg or in the arm, or you know, why didn't they use their taser? when you look at those things, you have to look at, is that a realistic thing that they can actually do? And I can tell you, there's no officer that's going to be able to pop rounds off and go, I'm going to shoot them in the leg, and that's what they feel. I'm going to shoot a round down and see what happens.
Right.
Every round that comes out of our firearm, we have to be accountable for. And if I'm just starting to try to hit somebody in the leg and I hit somebody behind them or somebody like that, we're now accountable for that.
Right.
It's not easy to do those things. It's not realistic. And people may go, oh, you got to get trained. I don't care how much training you have.
Right.
When you got adrenaline rushing, when you're moving, all these different factors are happening. Those are not realistic. Apart from those things, I think that understanding that the taser doesn't always work. The taser only works up. I don't know what the percentage is. Probably 60 to 70% of the time when a taser actually works. Wow. Because it all depends on clothing. It depends if they connect, if the taser prong connect. There's so many different things. And I know a lot of times we've had people, officers utilize tasers, and they didn't work.
Right.
What do you do now?
Right.
If somebody has a knife coming at you and you try to tase them and it doesn't work, it's such a difficult situation to be in. And I don't think any officer wants to be in it. But it's something that when you're in the situation, you sometimes react with how you've been trained, or sometimes react with what's inside of you.
Right.
I think that we train as much as we can. We're constantly trying to evolve with our training, figure out. We do a lot of de-escalation. That is key right now. Right. And that's what we've really focused on. Even Chief Anderson focused on it, but Chief Drake is focused on it even more. Right. De-escalation. Why are we going 100 miles an hour on this? Slow down.
Right.
Figure out what we can do. Yes, that person has a weapon, but is anybody here in immediate danger of losing a limb or of serious bodily injury or death? Right. No. So let's back off.
Right.
Figure out what we can do to end this in a peaceful manner so nobody gets injured.
Right.
That is one of the big keys that we're learning now is slow it down.
Right.
We don't need to rush into situations.
Right.
In the past, we did that a lot.
Right.
And I think that Chief Drake has said, we're going to slow it down and we're going to start using other resources that we have before we start pulling out those weapons and things like that we have.
And I think a co-response model with a mental health professional is like a direct response to that, slow it down, mediating, having somebody out there that actually better understands the mental health field and what's going on. Where's that at? I'm not.
So it's already started. And It started about a month or so ago, and from what I understand, and I haven't got all the information on it, but I've heard that it's been very successful in the times it's been utilized. Okay. And so I think that, again, having those mental health professionals that know what the heck they're doing, that have been trained to assess people and be able to help, again, de-escalate the situation has worked. Right. The things that we need to just take into account is sometimes these are not mental health issues. Sometimes somebody may be on drugs. Somebody may be super high on meth or crack or something that they're not, no matter how much you talk to them, it's not going to work. Yeah. So sometimes those things look like mental health issues, but they may not be. And so those are the reasons it's important to have an officer there, because if something goes wrong, we also have to protect those mental health professionals. And we also want to protect the person who's there. And,
No, and I know it's a lot of training, especially on the communication side, the emergency communication with 911 calls and stuff, being able to identify, what is, it's different with somebody's blatantly called, say, hey, my son or my daughter or my parent, they have a mental health issue, they're having a breakdown, can you send somebody? Which before, it would just be a police officer that may not know how to, deal with that situation, totally. But now, okay, we can send out this co-response model, which I think, is a significant upgrade to be able to prevent harm to the police officer or harm to the person that has the mental illness as well.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the biggest things, that is understanding if it is a mental health call, we're getting these mental health professionals there. Officers are trained. They've been trained on mental health. But again, if you don't see it all the time, those are like things that you lose some of that understanding. But
it's a difference,
Sure.
And you all have a lot on your mind and can only get so much training in everything.
Yes. We're a jack of all trades, master of none is really what we look at it. So you're getting taught a lot of different little things, a little bit of everything. But again, situations like mental health, you need people to know what they're doing. And I think that Chief Anderson didn't have that in the past administration. Chief Drake really felt that, hey, this is something that is being put out and it's needed, and it's something that the different organizations have said this is a model that we need to start looking into. And Chief Drake has said, we're going to do this, and he put Inspector David Imhoff, who is coordinating everything, to really put a program together that's going to really make a difference on uses of force on mentally ill or people having mental health breakdowns, as well as just making it safer for everybody. You know, I think being able to bring down these situations when they escalate, because somebody may have been a mental health episode, maybe really they'd be going, it's hard to talk to them. It's hard to really control the situation. These mental health professionals know what they're doing, and it has been. I know it's going to be something that's going to, in the long run, it's going to make a big difference on how we police in Nashville.
To just close us out, Carlos, where do you see, I guess, the future of policing and community engagement with policing here in Nashville?
I'll tell you, the goal that we have is to be a partnership.
Okay.
We want this to be a city where I don't care where you're from. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care what kind of job you have. I don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, whatever.
Right.
You should feel that you're being treated with dignity and respect by every officer. You should feel that you should not be afraid of talking to an officer or coming up to them when you need help. And you should be giving the resources that you need, not just by the officer, but by everyone, all those players in this, for all of our citizens, no matter what culture you are. I think that the more we connect with the community, the more we reflect what the community, who the community is, and the more people that come out of the communities to become police officers, the better it's going to be, the safer it's going to be, because you're going to have people who know what the real issues are. A lot of times we see the surface, we see the effects of what of the problem. We don't actually see the root of the problem. So once we get to the root of the problem, it changes everything else. And so having people who know what those problems are, having people who work with us in these communities, having minorities from these underserved communities becoming officers, you'll be able to make a difference. And I think with leadership like we have with Chief Drake and Deputy Chief Taylor and people, all our commanders who are really starting to buy in to what the future is. The more we work together, the more we collaborate, the more we partner with the community, the safer we'll be, and the more peace there'll be between everybody. It's just one of those things that we got to work together. There's a lot of players in this. It's not just police. You know, crime isn't a police-only problem. It's a societal problem. And I think everybody from, you know, our government to private organizations, everybody has to kind of work together to fix this. And so as long as we can work together, I think we're going to make some really big, significant changes and strides, and things are going to get better. But it's going to take everybody put boots on the ground, everybody to, you know, handle their business and do their part.
Well, the comments should be interesting. But I really hope people, one, you learned a lot today about what's going on in policing and here, specifically in the city of Nashville, and the future and the plans of policing. From what has been historically to what is changing presently as we speak in the MNPD. And so I'm ready to drop this today.
I'll tell you what, and I'll tell you this. I know that people are not going to all agree with us, and people are going to go, you know, they're going to be skeptical about what we're saying, and that's fine. I totally get it. I totally get it.
It comes with the job. It comes with the territory.
It does. But just know that whether you accept it or whether you understand it or believe it or not, we're working towards trying to make things better. And that's all I want you to know is, like, you don't have to believe me now. Let the results in the future start to show you what we're trying to do, because we really are trying.
And I will say this was speaking with Carlos in more serious settings. You know, he send him the facts. If there's something that he said that you have something that says differently, he will take a look at that.
Absolutely.
Email it to me. I want to know too. He wants to be informed too, and I can honestly, genuinely say that, because we've been going on back and forth in meetings, but we can't be. It's pizza involved. It's only some, you know.
I hear you.
It's only pizza.
And this is the dialogue we need.
Right, exactly. And this is what Deep Dish Conversations is for. So please reach out to Captain Carlos. Reach out to your community liaison if you want to know more, or you have just other questions that you may have. Or concerns, or you just want to, yell at them. I don't know.
Hey, you know what? I'll take it all. I'm good. And Carlos.Lara, CARLOS.LARA at Nashville.gov. Carlos.Lara at Nashville.gov. You can email me. I promise you,
just Google it. Just put it in there. It'll pop up.
You'll get it. And then again, any questions you have, and whether you like it or not, you're upset with me, whatever. I'm I'm good. You know what I mean? Like I understand. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I'll do whatever I can to answer your questions and help out. But I just want you to know again, we're here to help. We're trying.
Right.
We're not perfect, but we're trying,
Right.
and we're moving in the right direction. I think so.
Well, look, that's a wrap. I appreciate y'all for checking out another amazing episode, because each episode is amazing, of Deep Dish Conversations. Go ahead and go to the next episode if there's one there, or rewatch an episode, all right?
And come to Gino's, because this pizza is off the chain.
You heard it from him, not me. You heard it from
Let me tell you, they took care of business. So,
But Carlos, man, I appreciate it. I
appreciate
really
you,
do.
man.
I
Thank
appreciate
you so much,
it.
man,
I appreciate
for
it.
letting me be here, and I appreciate this. And I'll be keeping my eye on the other Deep Dish combo.
Oh yeah, man. Hey, everybody,
episodes
tap into it. All right,
Cool.
appreciate it. That's
Thank
a wrap.
you.
Man, that was good.